Hello, hi everybody. Happy Saturday. Happy Pride weekend. Hope you're all having an awesome day, celebrating. I'm here to talk a little bit about glamour magic from the Leo Witch. Hello from West Palm Beach. I was just over there in Fort Lauderdale yesterday. Thank you, thank you. The glasses are actually part of my presentation, kind of, sort of, because in the Leo Witch, I talk a lot about glamour magic, because as a Leo, we're known for being very glamorous, gregarious. You may be a cat owner and notice that your cat tends to get stuck in the mirror sometimes, and that's very, very true for us Leos. We're known for our confidence and our sort of wanting to be around other people and making other people comfortable and things like that. But that's sometimes a lot of work. So sometimes it takes a little bit of extra help. We might not be feeling that confident or that energetic on that day, and so things like this can be helpful. So yeah, Leo moon absolutely counts. Just trying to keep an eye here on the chat. Hello, New Zealand. But yeah, Leo moon, I feel like absolutely counts. So I'm a Leo sun. I have an Aries moon, and I feel like kind of manifesting the more like confident, outgoing vibes of sort of a Leo has maybe been a little bit tricky for me. So that's why I think I've really resonated and gravitated towards this idea of glamour magic. I do have a friend who is a Cancer sun and Leo moon, and just sort of absolutely embodies like that whole kind of what we typically expect from a Leo, I guess. So I have the sunglasses to help. You'll notice a lot of the glamour magic in the Leo Witch is kind of around not just beauty magic, but sort of accessorizing and how you put yourself together, how you project yourself to the world around you. Hello, Massachusetts. Hello, Minnesota. Hello, Leo rising. Hi, New Orleans. So glamour magic is typically about feeling beautiful, powerful, fierce. It's very appropriate kind of for Pride weekend, because Pride is very much about glamour and celebration and just sort of projecting that that beauty, that energy, that vivaciousness, just projecting it out and celebrating it. So it's a very sort of solar manifestation, a very Leo kind of a vibration, talking about projecting that sort of energy out into the world around us. And so when we do that, just like the sun gives light and life to all of the plants and animals and things like that, sending out all of these amazing sort of vibrations, they create all of this abundance and all of this not wealth, but fertility and things like that in the natural world. So the same thing kind of happens when we go out and interact with people, and we're projecting sort of this abundance as well. So it is a form of personal empowerment. So like I was mentioning, I didn't see myself as necessarily like the fullest embodiment of Leo right away, maybe in my teenage years. So glamour magic for me was very much about kind of becoming comfortable in my own skin, personal empowerment, and then also sort of turning that around and learning how to better connect with others and inspire others. You go out and you're going out for the weekend and you're all dressed up and you're feeling cute, and you're all by yourself, because I do that sometimes. It's tricky to kind of connect into the energy and everything that's going on around you. So these glamour techniques really help with that, because it just sort of brings like an extra element of fun and not your everyday. I try not to light my laptop on fire. Not your everyday wear and garb and things like that, and that brings out sort of this appreciation and this creativity in other people. And it's inspirational, and it helps us to just feel better in our own sort of space, also putting other people at ease. So people often tell me that I have this really relaxing sort of vibe and that I make people feel very calm. And I think that that is great because everything going on in here is not calm. So I'm glad that I'm projecting, the things that I'm wanting to embody in my own self. So very much about sovereignty and owning our own space. But glamour magic is more than beauty magic. Glamour can be a weapon. Our accessories, our tools can be our shield. They can protect us. They can be our sword. They can fight away our enemies, make us stronger. Glamour magic is a kind of mental projection, energetic projection. So it very much has a lot to do with the auric field, visualization. Really excited to see all of the Leo influences in the chat, though, because it's a very auspicious and lucky transit, I feel like, regardless of how it manifests. So for people throughout history, and even today, glamour and beauty magic, yes, we all have Leo somewhere in our chart. Leo influence everywhere. I guess we have a little bit of everything in our charts. But for people throughout history and even today, glamour and magic has meant various different things. It's been identity, it's been a means of self-preservation, survival, protection, personal expression, just simply existing. And that is very important. Drag performers in particular are getting a lot of heat, especially I'm in Florida, so it's probably one of the worst places to be a drag performer right now. I was just out last weekend and we're basically all kind of like harped off, to keep us from being seen by the people that are not attending the performance. So it's very much a kind of rebellion, celebration, empowerment. Yeah, and it's just imbuing kind of this intention into everything that you do, just like Leo says, or like Leo says, Maria says. Oh, leave it to a Leo. Yeah, so glamour magic pops up in a lot of different ways. It can be a lot of different things, and it can be used for various different intentions. Sometimes they are a little bit more nefarious, and we can get into sort of more of the influence magic, mastery, different formulas that have to do with kind of bending people to one's will and things like that that we see employed in various traditions. One of the sort of glamour magic moments that really sticks out in my mind is in the movie The Craft. So The Craft is very much, glamour magic kind of throughout the entire film. And most people are maybe familiar with it. If you're not, it's about 4 teenage witches in high school, essentially kind of discovering their magical powers and using it towards various different things that they would like to manifest in their lives. And we can see elements of glamour magic in almost all of these sort of sub stories that are part of like the larger storyline of the movie. And part of that may have to do with the fact that it was the 90s and they were teenage girls and they were in high school. So of course, like you're going to want to cast a spell to change your hair color, change your eye color, that sort of thing. But looking a little bit deeper, we've got these 4 witches, Sarah, Nancy, Bonnie, and Rachel. So in Rachel's case, she uses glamour magic in sort of a justice, revenge kind of a capacity to make this really nasty girl's hair fall out. So very much kind of that symbol of this girl's sort of status in high school was taken away from her. We see elements sort of the mirrors playing on that throughout the movie, and we kind of see it turned around on them at the end. So very much a recurring theme throughout the entire film is the mirror magic. And I would say that all all mirror magic is glamour magic. And yes, Tammy, it can definitely help with bad hair days. Mirrors have really, I think, brought us quite a long way. So you'll notice in the Leo Witch, there are a lot of little elements using mirrors as sort of personal affirmations, focal points, and we can also sort of turn them outward, reflecting things away from us, different ways like that. So with Rachel, we have justice, revenge, just coming from the desire for people not to treat her badly because she's different. Sort of same thing with Bonnie. Bonnie's is a little bit more surface level, but not. Bonnie was the one that I sort of identified with the most in the craft, because growing up, I've got all of these little freckles or moles that are on my back. I call them my witch marks, and I basically look like a map of the sky, but that really bothered me when I was younger. So I really resonated with this this girl that had all these scars on her back, that when they were finally removed, that she just kind of came out of her shell, and she was sort of presented as like this, now she's like this badass and she just doesn't care and she wants to do whatever she wants, and she's becoming like, more promiscuous in the way that she dresses as far as Catholic school goes. But it initiates this major sort of behavioral change, and I really resonated with that. And that for me was a really powerful kind of form of glamour magic, because it's literally sort of the physical transformation that we see that leads to this sort of inner person coming out. And she is associated with the element of fire in their circle. So also resonated with that. I found that important. So she would be my one out of the four. And then of course, Nancy, she manipulates basically everybody with glamour magic, snakes, etc. Yes, also ego is very important. Someone mentioned in the chat, the movie also shows what happens when magic is misused due to excessive ego. And that's important too. With Leo and the sun being very representative of the ego, is all about sort of how we perceive ourselves, how we project outward to the rest of the world. So a lot of that comes down to self-confidence and kind of our own inner fire. So glamour magic doesn't always have to be about manipulating other people or changing their perception in negative ways, like we see with the different examples in the movie. Obviously not harming none with the different ways that they use the glamour magic, including Sarah's love spell, which turned out to backfire against her. So it's kind of looking at glamour magic as this way to uplift ourselves from the inside, to put confidence somewhere where confidence is not necessarily, to start to really kind of get in touch with, the different parts of yourself that maybe you would like to make a little bit better or make a little bit different. So yeah, for me, it's been sort of a journey of kind of personal transformation and seeing these different ways of how glamour magic can be used. Because for me personally, for a long time, my own personal magic was very much about survival and being safe and kind of getting the things that I needed. Just growing up in Indiana as a gay man and coming out of the closet and being one of the very first people in my high school to do so. There was a lot of glamour magic, a lot of protection magic and things like that happening. So it was kind of like I had this very special thing inside of me that then came out, and that sort of got, beaten down throughout my teenage years. So in a way, I've kind of took the glamour magic to sort of push all of that back out to people and say, look, you know what? I was just a teenager at the time, but I'm not anymore. And I think that I'm pretty awesome, and I would like to share that with people. So it's kind of waking up that inner confidence that sort of just gradually it gets worn away. What was worse, coming out gay or witch? That's a really, really good question. So coming out gay was definitely more traumatic. I grew up in a very loving household, but it was a very, very conservative Christian household. I realized I just vomited like all of that stuff really, really quickly. So I'm happy to talk about anything you guys want to and answer any questions. But when I came out as gay, it was just sort of this earth-shattering thing that wasn't really taken very well. And in retrospect, I didn't really give it enough time to let everybody else in my life process. So I decided to move out and move in with an estranged parent when I was 15, which sort of led to a very difficult but also very formative kind of series of events and identity things and all of that. So I would say that coming out as being gay is definitely a little bit more difficult. Maybe even more difficult for the people around me to kind of process and absorb too. Just responding to this question in the chat. But when I came out as a witch, it was kind of, I think people knew I was a witch before they maybe even knew that I was gay. I've always been interested in magic, and whether it's stage magic or occultism or natural magic, I've always just had this very kind of drawn interest to the spirit world, to magic, things like that. And that's not always been received in the best way, but people learn and they grow, and it's amazing to see how your family members can change their opinions and understanding of things. But sometimes it's just a little bit of a slow go. Yeah, so the glamour magic for me has very much been about kind of building up this sort of self-image and the self-confidence, hence the funny glasses and the outfit and all the glitter that I put on myself. So I've always been super shy, super quiet, don't like to get up in front of people because I am Pisces rising, so I'm a little bit more of an introvert, but I've also got this Leo sun. So writing the Leo Witch was a little bit tricky for me because I didn't see myself as this super, gregarious, extroverted kind of people person. So it was a really interesting kind of revisiting of kind of all of the self glamours that I have inflicted on myself over the years. I do use a lot of correspondences when planning glamour magic. That's a really good question. So I'm largely a plant-based practitioner. The majority of rituals that I do include some type of herbal component, whether it's a formula, being applied to something, or the herb itself is kind of a major component. So for glamour magic in particular, it's going to sound really kind of cliche and stereotypical, but one of my very favorite ones is rose. For obviously it's Venusian elements, but then rose is also a really, really awesome heart medicine. So whether we're talking about the scent from the essential oils, or putting the fresh flowers in the bath, or using like a rose, Bulgarian rose serum as a facial product, which was really nice. That is probably like the quintessential sort of glamour magic plant when it comes to correspondence, but I know a lot of people can't stand the smell of rose. What are some of your favorite spells, favorite plants, favorite astrological times to work with? Just answering some of the questions. These are all really awesome. I had too many Leos in my life. Well, lucky you. So typically glamour magic, so my sort of side job is I work a lot with poisonous plants, and there are different uses in ritual, and I could talk for a whole day on that. But one of the main plant allies that I work with physically and spiritually, as a spiritual sort of entity and energy as well, is Atropa belladonna. And that's got a lot of sort of associations to beautification and sort of this female empowerment, monstrous femininity, from the Valkyries to the, Julia Tofana and all of these awesome different stories. So belladonna is one of my favorite sort of spirit allies to work with when it comes to glamour magic. And when it comes to a lot of these plants, we can connect with and call them into our ritual space much in the same way as we would a land spirit, a deity, a familiar spirit, or any other kind of an ally. So it doesn't necessarily have to be physical plant, but just sort of the vibration and the spirit that it kind of manifests, depending on what the glamour magic means to you. Some other ones that would be awesome for glamour magic in general that you could put into baths, or even thinking about like cosmetics and skin oils and things like that. Solar herbs like calendula are going to be really, really awesome, kind of to project that sort of solar energy, which, just like the light of the sun through a crystal prism or a magnifying glass, can be refracted into, any of these different sort of rainbow kind of colors. So solar herbs are really nice to kind of bring in the energy and kind of give you like that glow, but then also they can be sort of colored in various different ways. Someone mentions performing glamour magic during the new moon or full moon in Libra to be ideal. So yeah, that's an awesome lunar placement in the house of Libra. Just in general, Fridays, because Fridays are ruled by Venus, are going to be great for any kind of beautification magic, glamour magic. Sundays, of course, because of the sun, for obvious reasons, but also kind of getting out of the box of thinking about glamour magic in just the terms of beautification too. So we could use glamour magic for protection just as much as we could to beautify and to attract. We can use glamour magic to keep things away. So a lot of times, visualizing different protective boundaries and things like that, or certain animal guardians to kind of give off this aura of stay away or don't notice me. That is very much glamour magic too. So kind of depending on your intention and use. So one person just asked, how do I use glamour magic to protect? I kind of sort of just, I think maybe just a little bit of a lag on answering that, but one of my favorite ways to use glamour magic to protect, as a fire sign, I'm very much in touch with the element of fire. So what I like to do is take solar herbs, kind of being careful though, because some of them you don't want to necessarily burn them, but things like calendula, frankincense, St. John's wort, angelica root, mixing those either in an anointing oil or an incense, and then creating sort of a physical aura, but also visualizing sort of being surrounded in flames. Some people like to work with mirrors reflecting things. So a lot of it comes down to sort of visualizing the specific type of energy that you're wanting to project, depending on the type of protection that you need. So sometimes really loud, fiery protection is not going to be the best route. Sometimes you need to be more subtle, more under the radar. So maybe doing a glamour magic ritual on a Saturday or a Monday, bringing in more of a lunar or a Saturnian influence. Also, your herbal correspondences, your crystal correspondences, you would want to sort of match the type of glamour magic that you're doing. Any stones I like using, goddesses, gods, or other favorite allies that you like working with? Yeah, the Fae absolutely are going to be very proficient at glamour magic. The only thing with them is that they are often very tricky. Sometimes they are glamoring us when we're trying to glamour other people, and you don't necessarily even know it. So we want to be careful when working glamour magic and messing with perception when it comes to sort of tricky spirits like that. Crystals, what I would use, that would really largely depend on intention and sort of like the flavor of the glamour magic. But I would say in general, rose quartz, jade, emerald. And think of those three kind of off the top of my head. They also make, and that's why they come to mind, these really awesome facial rollers that are made out of crystals. So you can get the additional sort of benefit of smoothing and toning the skin, while also getting the specific crystal vibration that you need. So with the amount of sort of natural ingredients in all of the beauty products out there, and popularity of crystals and other sort of vibrational components that are being brought into the beauty industry, we could go to Ulta or Sephora and look around and start, pulling magical correspondences based on different cosmetic sort of ingredients. Backstory, I was a cosmetologist for 10 years. I worked as a cosmetology instructor. So I'll also kind of bring in that little bit of that as well. And it is very much, even doing hair or makeup or skincare in the regular world is very much a form of glamour magic. You are bringing sort of that best out in people, bringing them back to a time when they did feel really good about themselves, and they were bringing it all to the table. And sometimes people need, they just need someone else to see it for a second, and then they're reminded. Oh, so many questions. Wow, awesome. A Leo clinician, absolutely. Coby, you were great. Pisces gives you great insights. Yeah, if I didn't have the Pisces rising, I would just be probably unbearable. So thank goodness for that. Yeah, calendula is an amazing sort of all-purpose kind of healing herb. And there was a question a little bit earlier about growing my own poisonous plants. I've been growing and working with poisonous plants for about 10 years. I'm originally from Indiana, and that's where I typically did and still do the majority of my growing, is in the north. Down in Florida right now, and it's really a totally different ecosystem. Even just the little microclimate that I'm in here in St. Pete, it's just very, very difficult to work with a lot of the plants that I'm typically used to growing, especially deadly nightshade, wolfsbane, things like that. So I do, just not in Florida because it's too hot. But I've got some gardens in my ancestral lands, up at my grandparents' house, where they're growing some. And so my plants are kind of looking out and watching over my family for me while I'm not up there. Have I considered making my own line of products in combination with glamour magic? So I do have a website where I offer a number of ritual formulas. It's very much within the sort of umbrella of the poison path, working with various baneful herbs, witching herbs, and things like that. My sort of version and niche in that is a lot of them do very much have this sort of element of influence and glamour, especially like I mentioned, belladonna, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of the nightshades have this sort of aphrodisiac, hypnotic kind of a quality. And I do use those in formulas. I've got a couple different formulas: a belladonna influence oil, Jezebel oil, blood of my enemy's bath. Oh gosh, so a lot of my formulas are kind of like under the radar, glamour magic too, just depending sort of on what you're looking for. yeah, confidence, not wearing makeup, just being yourself, especially aging these days. It is one of the largest prejudices I noticed. No one wants to show their age. And especially now we've got all of the face tunes and little filters and things. Like if my face doesn't look absolutely airbrushed and smooth, I'm like, I don't, what's happened to me? And then I see myself like physically in the mirror and I'm like, oh wait, you're almost like 35 years old. This is what's happening. You're just used to seeing yourself on a screen all of the time. So that kind of becomes part of the self glamour and kind of that mental mind mess that we can get caught up in with our own glamour magic. Social media is definitely a part of that. And I'm just reading off of some really awesome text here in the chat. But you'll notice throughout the Leo Witch as well, I touch on social media a lot as far as like avoiding burnout and keeping true to yourself and boundaries and all of these things that we have to navigate now because we do live so much of our lives on social media. And very much, I totally agree. Everything is totally a facade when it comes to that, because we're only sharing, what we want people to see. Everything's edited and filtered, even just a little bit, even if it's just our own mental filter. Yeah, so at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. We're all glamorous. We all have the ability to inspire and to feel good about ourselves. And if anyone else says otherwise, we know what we can tell them, where they can go. I don't know if I can swear on this, so I won't do that. But thank you all so much for the amazing questions, amazing inputs. I totally agree with Peggy. Social media is totally a glamour magic on its own. I'll joke about that with friends sometimes too that do similar social media related things, and it's very, very, very much a glamour magic. But as long as the right intentions are behind it, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of glamour. So thank you guys. I hope you all have an amazing, amazing weekend. I hope you have a happy Pride. And thank you, Llewellyn, for having me here.